I'm coming, my head ain't bending low. I'm walking loud, I'm talking proud. My name is the new Black Joe. And I come to say to you, get up and turn this new Negro loose. Get up and turn this new black woman loose. Get up. Let me tell you, Martin said, I'm not fearing any man. You know what we must say? I'm not hating any man. I ain't got time to be against you, Jesse. I ain't got time, CT, to worry about whether you going to pay me or not. You owe me $2,200. You forgot you borrowed $2,200. You remember that? Yeah, I remember. You owe SCLC $2,200. Otis, God bless you. I ain't got time to be mad at you, Juanita. You raise hell as much as anybody I've ever known. But I love you. I love you. I love you. You can't keep up with me. But we come to the new day. And God is calling us today to put our hearts and minds together and help change America. We've got a new enemy. You got a new enemy. I don't understand this new Republican. It's not the old. My daddy was a Republican. But the old Republicans have gone. This party is not the party of Lincoln. It's the party of Limbaugh and those fools. And we must face them with a new Negro, new spirit, new love, new determination. God bless you. You pray for me, and I'll pray for you, because that's the way God's children ought to do. Thank you, Reverend Joe Lowry. I'm going to quickly, we got to wrap this up in 15 minutes quickly. Let's hear 3 from each organization, and we're going to do about 10 minutes Q&A. Let's start with that boy from the Urban League, Mark Mariel.
Reverend Joseph Lowry, Reverend, you raised the house with Reverend Lowry, and I thought that would be the last word. But let's give Reverend Lowry a hand, because I could listen to him and these legends all day long. So very quickly, we've heard history. We have been inspired. And I just want to take a minute and talk to you about a plan. So in December and in January, Reverend Sharpton, along with myself and Melanie and Araz's colleague Ben Jealous of the NAACP, the 4 of us, convened approximately 50 to 60 leaders of African American organizations. We met with the idea that we would be remiss in our responsibilities in 2013 if we did not try to find common ground around a plan to move our community forward. Not just a vision, not just inspiration, not just tactics, but indeed a plan. 5 areas is what we decided would be our priority: economic, inequality, injustice, poverty and jobs. Number 2, educational equality. Number 3, healthcare disparities. Number 4, the criminal justice system and violence in our community. And number 5, voting rights. We are working together on a draft plan that we hope to have before August 28th of this year. But in the short run, I want to give you 4 things that President Obama has proposed that could help move our agenda forward. Number 1 is the American Jobs Act, which the President re-proposed at his State of the Union address. Number 2 is the Promised Neighborhood concept, which the President also proposed that'll be incorporated into his budget that's going to be released on Wednesday of this coming week. Number 3 is the concept of early childhood education for all of our children. And we expect that there's going to be a way, not only an idea, but also a way to finance it in the President's budget. And number 4 is this idea that we need gun safety legislation, and we need it now. And we have to confront the obstructionists. The last thing I want to share with you, because time is short, is that this coming week, the National Urban League will release its 2013 State of Black America report. I want you to write down the website, nul.org. You will be able to read that report for free online beginning this week. If you want to purchase a copy, you'll have to buy it, but we're going to allow people to read it online in toto. Our work today has to be informed by a clear sense of where we are. So it is absolutely incorrect to say we have made no progress. It would be disrespectful to the legacy of Martin King, Whitney Young, John Lewis, and all of those, A. Philip Randolph, who led the March on Washington, to suggest that we've come no distance. It is also patently incorrect to suggest that we have arrived, that this is somehow a post-racial nation, that somehow because we've changed the occupancy of the White House, that somehow that means that the work we must do is no longer relevant. So I encourage you to recognize that we are going to not just have a commemoration or a celebration on August 28th. We're going to try to provide a plan of action, some notions and some ideas that will take some public policy recommendations that can take our community forward. We're going to have to be inspired, and I just issue a challenge. You've heard the challenge issued to those who serve in the pulpit to be much more focused on presence. I want to issue a challenge to those who've been elected. I spent 10 years as an elected official, mayor of my own hometown, and a member of our state's highest legislative body, its Senate. It's also time for those who we elect all across the nation to recognize they would not be there but for Selma and the Voting Rights Act. They would not be there. And therefore, they owe an obligation to be vocal and constructive and not to be caught in the trappings of power, the vestments of power. So with that, thank you, Reverend Sharpton.
All right, we heard 4 things from Mark Morial. I just want to reckon that Reverend Jackson gave up his Saturday morning meeting in Chicago because he felt this was his start. He's got to fly back and leave us early, but today would not have been complete without him here. Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Thank you. We owe so much to Reverend Sharpton for convening our family. Give him a big hand, won't you please? On your feet. On your feet for Reverend Sharpton. It's a big deal. And I cannot help but thank God so much again. It means so much to us to have his life and living. Another big hand for Reverend Joseph Lowry. Joe, thank you so much. Thank you, Joe. I would only say in closing, I really must run, is that Dr. King said that many of our freedom allies may not be our equality allies. Freedom was just the end of indecency and barbarity. Equality involved sharing. And today the gap is not so much between black and white, but have and have not. But when you look at Reverend Lowry and Mrs. Abernathy and Reverend Vivian, there's a new South today. LSU and Alabama couldn't have played together if Reagan and Goldwater had won. From Virginia around to Texas, you could not have the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers if had not we won that. You couldn't have the automotive industry in the New South or the Olympics in Atlanta had not we won. That's our battle too. My appeal to us, and Reverend and Al and I have talked about this so much, is that we need to build, we are free, say free, but not equal. How many of you have a relative, you have a relative, you know somebody who is facing home foreclosure? Raise your hand. Home foreclosure. A church foreclosure? Raise your hand. You know somebody's in student loan debt? Stand. Somebody in credit card debt? Stand. Somebody looking for a job? The reason I ask those questions is that, having said all that we've said, we need now a targeted economic development plan. And I'm convinced, Reverend Lowry, that Europe came back on the 50-year loans, 2% government secured, called Marshall Plan. We need today, with these $2.5 trillion of overseas monies, about the same on Wall Street, to build an economic, our government's build an urban infrastructure bank that we might rebuild what we have lost and make it happen. This president should be on Mount Rushmore. Our struggle will make him be where he should be for all of us. God bless you. I love you so much.
Reverend Jackson, we heard 4 specifics from Mark Mariel going forward into the action plan, August 28th, NAACP plan. Rosalind Brock, the chair lady.
Thank you, Reverend Sharpton. Mark Morial laid out the plan for the African American community, and we are certainly partners in that. But as you know, you also have to do something in your own house. And so at the NAACP, we've developed, as I shared with you before, 5 game changers. And very quickly, as I travel around the country, folks are always asking the question, what is the NAACP doing? And what have you done for me lately? Well, I'm here to say that the association is alive and well. And so once we've heard all of this history, now the work begins. And so I brought some resource materials with me, and I have Marvin Bing, who is our Regional 2 Director for the Northeast Region. Stand up, Marvin. He's here for any additional information, but in the area of education, last year, we published Finding Our Way Back to First, Reclaiming Our World Leadership. This is not just talking about the problems, we are putting solutions forward. Around redistricting, we have information on that for you. The NAACP Economic Opportunity, our diversity report for the hotel industry. It tells you where you need to stay, where you're putting your money, who is giving money back to the community. We have this for your use. We also release misplaced priorities, over-incarceration and under-educating our children. This is for you to have here in the state of New York. We're talking about strengthening public education in our nation. There's a new phenomenon that's going around the country about environmental justice and climate change. Yes, it impacts communities of color, but for far too long, we have not been engaged in this conversation. That's why the NAACP produced Cold-Blooded, putting profits before people. This is talking about coal power plants that are in urban communities that are killing our people. Our state conference president in Connecticut, Scott Exdale, just last week was challenging Hartford, Connecticut, a coal power plant. What are you doing to make sure that these emissions are not killing our neighbors? The criminal justice system. Disproportionately, African American men and young women are being warehoused in our prison system. The NAACP has worked diligently in 2 states, one in Connecticut and just recently in the state of Maryland, to eliminate the death penalty. We're pleased that in the last election, the association, working with its van technology, registered almost 500,000 new voters to go to the polls. We've got a voter empowerment training workbook that we can put out and help you, because we still have to go to the polls. It's not every 4 years. We need to go back now for the midterm elections to change the game. I started out talking about health care. I'm a health care advocate. The Black church and HIV and AIDS, the social justice imperative. The Black church, AIDS is knocking at our doors. And it's asking the question, who touched me? And there has to be a prophetic word from the pulpit in response to this phenomenon. Who touched me? The church must respond. And then also, too many of us are sick and tired of being sick and tired, but we're sick and tired because we're carrying a whole lot of weight. Obesity. The NAACP and childhood obesity, we have an advocacy manual that we have put out for your use to deal with your young people. Now, too many of our young boys are being stopped on the highways and the byways of this country, not knowing what to do when they're stopped by the 5-0. So we got a little pamphlet, the 411 on the 5-0. Y'all want to know what the NAACP is doing in its second century? We are alive and well. My sister Melanie asked the sisters to stand. She asked the brothers to stand. But those of you, in honor of the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, how many of you here, by show of hands, are under the age of 50? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. This post-Joshua generation, now is the time for us to stand up and be counted. I was born in May 1965 in Fort Pierce, Florida, right down the street from my sister. I didn't have the opportunity to march with Martin in the South or protest with Malcolm in the North. But I believe I have an inherent responsibility as I lead the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization to give something back to our nation. So we're calling on this Joshua generation to stand up and be counted. Because as I always say, courage cannot skip this generation. Too many people died for the franchise to allow us to be in these positions. And so, Reverend Sharpton, as I conclude my comments, what I want to say to the family who is assembled here and those who may be listening, it is time for us, as we think about that eternal flame that is burning in front of the crypt of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Atlanta, Georgia. We have to pass the torch. Don't bury the flame. It's time now for us to pass the torch. Don't bury the flame. Peace and power.
Rosamond Brock. Tamika Mallory, National Action Network.
So people are always asking me, what should I do? How do I get involved? You've heard a lot of information today. And there's a lot of stuff that folks can do, but I don't want people to walk away thinking that you have to try to conquer the entire civil rights movement. Right. There are people in your own house who are not registered to vote, in your own families, in your own town. Those are the people that you need to be focused on, because if you can get those people, and I can get some folks, and she can get some folks, and we all do our part, we can make a difference. Local districts, local mobilization is the most important part of what we are talking about today. Ensuring that your own networks are engaged and that they know what it is that they need to be doing. There are governor's races coming up in 2013 that people need to know they have to go out and vote. The midterm elections in 2014, you can still register people right now so that they can vote in those midterm elections. There's a lot of stuff that happens federally. There's a lot of stuff that happens on the national level, but it is coming down into the local districts that we must implement and push people to do what is necessary for our communities. Dr. King was 39 years old when he died. So my call to the young adults who are in this room, those who are watching, brothers and sisters that I work with all over, is what will the history books say about our contribution to the issues that matter in our time? It is our job to stand up and do what we heard others talk about today. They did it with less. We have more, but we are not doing enough. It's our time, our generation, and our moment is now. The young folks have a rap song that we all love, and it goes a little bit like this. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole family's here. And I push back all the time on that, because we started from the bottom where 4 little girls were bombed in Birmingham. And now, when we claim we're on the top, a 4-year-old baby can get shot in the Bronx, in the park, by our youth. So while we think we have done so much, we have so far to go, and the only way we're gonna get there is if we stop being cowards, stop being lazy, stop closing and locking our doors and ignoring the problems of our community. Nobody cares about our children, but the question, brothers and sisters, is do you care? Do we care about our 4-year-old babies? And if we say that we do, then we must get our hands dirty, get our Louboutins a little scratched up on the bottom, and stand up and get out in the streets. Meet me, because the National Action Network is there.
Tamika Mallory. I'm going to take 4 people real fast. 4 people, either mic. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Let's go. Let's go.
I direct my question to Ms. Campbell. What are some of the things that we, the people, can do on the ground in the coming days to pressure the Justice Department and other institutional authorities to combat the governor of Michigan's actions in disabling the democratically elected officials? What are some of those things?
Emergency manager, good question.
Well, let me say this. I think one of the things we need to do, in addition to what you're talking about, though, right now, is focus on what's going on with this budget on Capitol Hill. And so that's going on right now, and it's going to have catastrophic impact. So we really need to be pushing back on that. When it comes to what's going on with the labor movement, I was in that session yesterday, Reverend, which was an awesome, powerful session. We know that when they attacked voting rights, they also attacked workers' rights, they attacked women's rights, and all of this. Now, we know we can't change the governorship today in Michigan, but that ought to be on our agenda, you think? We need to also, we know they're taking over Detroit, so we know what's happening in our inner cities as well with the takeovers. So we really have to look at what's going on. We know Tamika mentioned the governor's races, I think, in New Jersey and Virginia, but you have races going on in Detroit. We all have to get into Michigan very, very soon. We know when it happened, we were all excited about November, and then you looked around, and then they went, the enemy never sleeps, so we can't either. So we have to keep moving on and keep organizing.
And another direct part of that, there's a federal lawsuit filed this week by several in Detroit, including Detroit chapter 9. We need to get the federal courts to enjoin the governor from the emergency takeover. We need to support that suit. Queen Mother.
Yes, in the spirit of Queen Mother Moore, how do we fraction in reparations as a part as the financial and dealing with Wall Street they owe us, as Queen Mother Moore would say?
All right, anyone want to take that?
I don't necessarily know a strategy to factor in reparations, but the question would always be consistently, where would reparations go, and then and how do you develop the capacity to handle what could possibly even be given? I think one of the issues that make that almost implausible is because sometimes a lack of mobilizing and galvanizing that takes place in our community, that not only can talk about reparations, but talk about strategies and programs that we can help to really participate in transforming our communities. Because if you get money with no plan and no program, it means nothing at the end of the day. So we have to be able to develop opportunities and I think mechanisms of strategies that can be effective even if reparations don't come at the end of the day. So.
And I think we must always acknowledge, as you say, in the spirit of Queen Mother Moore, in whatever way that we deal with reparations, we are owed. If you take something from me, even if I never get it back, I will never let you forget you took it and you owe me. Salam Ishmael. This is number 3. I'm only doing 4. Y'all stand up all you want. I said 4, and that's what it's going to be.
Salam Ishmael with the National Youth Council. 2 issues that we're dealing with. New Jersey is this prison industrial complex. In New Jersey, we still have, right, Mayor Smith, the highest African-American rate in the nation in terms of prison incarceration. It was at as high as 63%. The other piece is we also had epidemic proportion like no other before in terms of violence, where Camden City has now suffered 67 murders, which is the highest it's ever been. The highest were 58 in 1995, and Newark is no better, which was then in 1995 the #1 most violent city in America. How can we collectively, because there's a collective problem in terms of leadership, I can say for my state, how can we collectively begin to start bringing us together? The Muslim, I wish we had seen more of that. Here, the Christian churches and all the various organizations together to begin to deal with this dynamic, comprehensive issue.
The only thing I want to say is that we talked about coming together around an agenda, but we also working together in unity around these, and gotten past some of these things we had to do, but we know that we have to be organized together in New Jersey and Virginia in some of these local key races in 2013. That's a right now moment to impact some of what you're talking about. Whoever you guys end up elected in New Jersey, we need to be there together and showing that unity. We don't need to wait till midterm election, presidential election. These elections that are happening in 2013 are very, very critical. So we definitely are pledging to work with NAN and NACP and all of us together.
I think also we need to do a multi-city tour together, like a unity tour, and use New Jersey as the model. So you can set that up and get that to us. We'll be ready to do that. You have on a press tag?
Excuse me? Yes, yes.
If you remember the press, you're going to get an interview. Go to the next person, let them ask the last question. Remember, the press should not ask a question on C-SPAN. Go ahead, brother.
All right, but
you're going to get an interview, so that you're going to get a double. That's not fair to the audience. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, I want to talk about the spirit of unity.
No.
No,
you want a question.
The question is this.
Okay. You said you wanted to talk.
We seen Malcolm and we seen Martin sitting down dialogue.
No, we
didn't.
No, we never saw
Elijah Muhammad and also Martin dialogue. Why can't your organization get with the Muslim movement? Because it's a universal thing. We all in this boat together and sit down and come to some understanding where we can fight this battle together.
Well, the answer to that is that we have and will continue to. When we did the Million Man March, we all did it together. I spoke there.
That was 95.
Wait a minute. You asked a question, you want to answer it too? We are all sitting down with each other and do what is strategically necessary together. There is no division between any of us in that.
Okay.
So if that's your question, then you need to join either them or us, and you would know we are together. All right, thank you. Let me say to our delegates, 1:30 is the telecommunication opportunity workshop at the back at the convention site. Then the youth panel tonight is the fashion show. I want to thank Reverend Walron and First Corinthian for hosting this historic gathering. Nowhere have you ever seen these generations of black leadership come together like this. You witnessed it today. Let us, you that watch, you can go to nationalactionnetwork.net, get the 4 points that Mark Morial laid out from the Black Agenda, mobilization toward August 28th. Let me thank Reverend Joseph Lowry, Reverend C.T. Vivian, Reverend Otis Moss, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and certainly to one who I think needs to be raised up. We talk about Dr. King, but there wouldn't have been Dr. King without Dr. Abernathy, Mrs. Juanita Abernathy. Thank you and God bless you.
Selena.